If you're even thinking about selling your home in Minneapolis, there's one mistake that can cost you thousands before your home even hits the market. And the problem is, most sellers don't realize it until it's already happening. Because when a home sits on the market, it's almost always tied back to one thing: pricing strategy. But not in the way you think. It's not just about being too expensive. It's about being positioned wrong from the start. And here's why this matters. Because pricing isn't something you decide the week you list. It is something you should understand months in advance. And in a market like Minneapolis, St. Paul, and the Twin Cities, where buyers are extremely informed and inventory fluctuates constantly, that first impression is everything. Because once your home goes live, you don't get a reset. There's no let's try again next week. There's no buyers will come back later. The market reacts instantly, and the way it reacts is almost entirely based on your price. Now, most sellers think pricing works like this: let's start high, and we can always come down later. And honestly, that feels logical. It feels safe. It feels like you're protecting yourself, like you're leaving room to negotiate. But here's the reality most people don't understand. That strategy is exactly what causes homes to sit, and sitting is what costs you money. Now, in a second, I'm going to walk you through what actually happens step by step when a home is overpriced, and why it almost always leads to a lower final sales price. But first, you need to understand how buyers actually search, because this is where everything starts to click. When buyers are searching for homes in Minneapolis, they're not just scrolling randomly. They're using filters, very specific filters, usually in price brackets like $400,000 to $450,000, $450,000 to $500,000, and $500,000 to $550,000. So let's say your home is realistically around $450,000, but you decide to list at $475,000 to leave room. You just eliminated an entire group of buyers. Not kind of, not maybe, completely. Because the buyers searching up to $450,000 will never even see your home. And the buyers searching between $450,000 to $500,000, your home now looks like one of the more expensive options. So instead of being a top choice, you become a comparison property. And this is where the real problem begins. Because now, instead of attracting attention, you're quietly being skipped over. And here's the part most sellers never hear. The first 14 days on market is everything. The first 7, crucial. This is the window where your listing is brand new. Platforms like Zillow and Realtor.com push it out the most, and the most serious, ready-to-act buyers are watching. This is when your home gets the most exposure it will ever get. Not later, not after a price drop, right at the beginning. So, if your price is off during that window, you don't just lose time, you lose momentum. And momentum in real estate, that's everything. Because once that initial wave of buyers passes, your home doesn't feel new anymore. It feels familiar. And buyers start asking questions like, why hasn't this sold yet? Is something wrong with it? Are they going to have to drop the price? Now, let's walk through what typically happens, because the pattern is incredibly common. Week 1, your home hits the market. Showings are lower than expected. Buyers are hesitating. Week 2, even fewer showings, less interest, and your listing is already starting to lose visibility. Week 3, you reduce the price, thinking that will fix it. But here's the problem. The damage is already done, because now buyers see price reduced. And instead of creating urgency, it creates doubt. Week 4, your home is sitting. Buyers assume something's wrong. And now, instead of creating demand, you're chasing it. And here's the part most sellers don't expect. You often end up selling for less than if you would have just priced it correctly from the start. Now, compare it to what happens when a home is positioned the right way. Not underpriced, not risky, just strategic. The homes that sell the fastest and for the strongest terms are typically priced right at market value or slightly below. Because that pricing strategy does 3 things. It increases visibility, it increases showings, and it increases competition. And competition is what actually drives your price up. Not overpricing and not testing the market, just competition. So instead of asking what's the highest price I can get, Ask this instead: what price will create the most attention immediately? Because the formula always looks like this: attention, showings, showings, offers, offers, leverage. And leverage is where you win. That's how you control the terms. That's how you create multiple offers, and that's how you maximize your outcome. Now, earlier I mentioned that pricing your home wrong can actually lead to a lower final sale price, even if you start higher. And this is why. Because once you lose momentum, you lose negotiating power. And when you lose negotiating power, buyers gain it. So even though you started higher, you often end up accepting less, with worse terms and more stress along the way. So if you're even thinking about selling, whether it's this spring, later this year, or even next year, this is something you want to get right early. And if you want to understand what your home would need to be priced at to actually create that kind of demand, not just an online estimate, not a generic number, reach out. I'm happy to walk you through it. And if you're wondering what happens when a home doesn't sell and how to recover from that situation, that's exactly what I break down in the next video.